Oh, see there, I done started. We done started. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Let's go ahead and get Instagram started. That was quick. That was quick. Hey y'all. Good evening. It's Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates in 93rd District. We are back at it again. I see you. I see you, Derek. I see y'all. How y'all doing this evening? Hey, you got the fist up and you put the white fist, Eric. I love you. I love you for that. All right, good evening, y'all. So this is another one of our roundtables. I told y'all this is quick, down, dirty. We're gonna spend about an hour, probably at this point, less than that here today. If you've been rocking with us, that means that you probably have seen the child care roundtable that we did. You saw the child care was dope. The AI, the speed cameras, and everything in between. I really appreciate the feedback that y'all have given us about these thus far. So we're gonna keep them going. Right now, we've got election reform. We're gonna do that today, and I see you getting ready for Women's March in November 2nd. Okay, you got to tell me more about that because I don't even know. Hey, Zan, it's good to see you as well. What I will say though is I'm super excited because when we do these roundtables, y'all know I try to make sure that there are people much more intelligent than I putting it down and just like really being attentive to the thing. So today, I don't mean to gas it up, okay? I do not mean to gas y'all up like this, but like if you are here with us, you are extremely fortunate to be able to share space with the quite frankly, the subject matter expert that we have here today, like the favor of democracy in the Commonwealth. And she's gonna get mad at me, and I don't care. Okay, I don't care because I'm hyping her up because we need to do that for each other, especially when we're doing a service. Y'all don't see what happens in the background, but I would love for y'all to welcome Madam Chair, Delegate Marcia Price.
See, I don't know why you act like this. Did you introduce
Because
yourself as Madam Chair?
okay, I would say Madam Subcommittee Chair, right? So, for context, and I'm gonna give you a chance to do your thing. Context. When y'all, that's what Derek said. Yes, I know, Derek. I know. Like that's what we got to do it. So, uh, when we took the majority this past session or last, before y'all, I just feel like we about to roll right back into this election process. That means that we get to be the leaders in each of those committees. Now, if you've been to summer school, then you know we don't walk through that process. If you haven't, then you need to take your tail to summer school so we can know what we're talking about here. But that means the majority party gets to choose who leads the process by which we do our lawmaking. And this last session, for the first time in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the oldest, contextually, we have to do this, okay? Go ahead, name some of your brothers that chaired the committee on privileges and elections. Who's some of your homeboys now that you sit in the history books with?
So we had Delegate Joe Lindsay from Norfolk was the chair. And then we had Delegate Marcus Simon, who was also chair. And then just the
No.
history.
Nobody care about them. We talking about way back. Let's talk about when the Commonwealth started.
So,
Go ahead. When the
so
Commonwealth.
yes, so when the House of Burgesses and the first meetings of the Virginia General Assembly as we know it today, when we were in the old chamber, the old House chamber, and we had Thomas Jefferson, we had all of those folks. Privileges and Elections Committee started then. So the House Privileges and Elections Committee is the longest continuously serving legislative committee in the nation. And all kinds of folks that have been chair before, to when they were wearing the white wigs to just a couple of years ago. but yes, so it is a long history, but I am the first Black woman to chair this committee in that 400 plus year history.
Come through, right? Come through. Somebody said Thomas Jefferson. Okay, LOL. Okay, I know. We have to do this. Hey, Miss Charlene, I love to see you. She said Delegate Billy Robertson.
Very possibly. I have not utilized space to memorize all of them. I just know what I'm trying to do in the chair and part of that legacy,
For
but
sure.
very possibly.
That's what nobody care about them. We talk about Thomas Jefferson, the Whigs and stuff. We talking about way back. But here is the deal, right? When we look at the advent and the act and the quite frankly the weight of that this committee holds, this committee holds our Commonwealth together. Without privileges and elections, we don't get to be in the space without those things fundamentally being in a place where people like you can be participatory. People
Yeah.
like us can put like this is the foundation.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, any other topic that we can talk about in any of the other various committees that we serve on, like none of that is possible if the foundation of our democracy is not there. And so in the committee, I don't know the history of how privileges and elections became the topic, but that's the name of it for the House and the Senate. But basically we touch on everything from how, like your subcommittee, how elections are administered, to campaign finance, to like anything that you can think of that happens from when you exercise your right to vote or even register to exercise your right to vote, and then all the way to once a governor has been elected, confirming the appointments of that governor, proposed constitutional amendments. So all of the parts of democracy before you get to economy, education, you know, all of that. So we are quite foundational in the work that we do because we are, in my eyes, seen to be the committee that helps preserve the people's entry into the legislative process. So it's big work. It is definitely big work.
Certainly, 1,000%. Lisa, I hear you. You kind of touched on it. Delegate Price is that not sure where the privileges part comes from, but I consider like being able to vote. Yeah, while it's a right, like it is the right that grants a lot of our privileges. We just gonna put it that way,
Yeah.
and that just gives us something to look forward to. Lisa, thank you for asking that question though, because you know how I feel about questions, y'all. This is the space, right? We can't walk into this work and act like we know it all. We got to be asking questions. So this is your opportunity while you have the knowledge in the room, because y'all might ask me something. I'm like, I'm gonna have to tap in with Chairwoman Price and find out what we. So please,
and I reserve the right as well because we work with a team. We have lawyers and experts and advocates that we all work with, and so so I appreciate the questions too. But I'll be very transparent if I don't have an answer. So we're gonna work it all together. But it really probably does go back to, if you look at some of the legislation that came out in the earliest iterations of it, voting was very much seen as a privilege. Voting was very much kept as a right for a little few. So I will look and make sure that that is where that came from. But we are definitely looking at voting as a right. Voting is a right to be protected, and the work that we're doing within that to increase the access to the ballot, not to create obstacles in achieving the ballot.
Crow. Kristen Wheeler, who I already know is a veteran, and I appreciate you. I'm gonna say thank you for your service, just to be funny to you, Kristen. She said patriot. Okay, serious stuff. Yes, ultimate patriot. And can we have that back? Like, can we? Yes. Scream it to the rooftop, Kristen. Tell people we are patriots up in here. Probably believing in more than them others, more so than anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the votes that we take and the conversations that we have within the committee, I think honestly go back to a lot of what the words in the Constitution mean. And I would like to go to a time where there were 3 separate branches of government and like all of the checks and balances that we were learning about in middle school civics were actually true, right? And so honestly, we are entering into a very patriotic space of preserving what's right and fixing what they didn't get right, and we don't always agree on how we get there across the aisle, but how we draw our districts, how we handle the census, like all of these things, like how the government is held accountable to the people that have the power. All of that is within what we do on our committee.
Facts. And Jackie Williams, hey, I say you got on here early. She said, probably the question that's on everybody's mind is, are we ready for November?
That's a very loaded question. So I would remind folks too that part of getting ready for November is that November 5th is actually the end of our opportunity to vote. So I want to know, are you ready for tomorrow? Because in Virginia, you could go vote tomorrow because we do have that 45 days of early voting. And so tonight, if you're watching and you're not registered, you're not sure if you're active in the system, we can walk through how you go through that, because you have until 11:59 p.m. to get your voter registration updated so that you can vote on a traditional ballot and not have to vote on a provisional ballot. But then starting tomorrow, we got you as well. There's same day voter registration and early voting opportunities should you need to update or register. But I'm a not jump ahead, but to see where the conversation is taking us. But if now is the time, I think we should really jump into that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the beauty of what we've actually met since we got out of session, just to help y'all understand, right? Y'all know that we talk about, like, I try to educate while we're talking, is that we do session at the beginning of the year. But since then, the chairwoman has called us back to the Capitol. Have we been back twice for privileges and elections? I think.
Once.
At least
everything's
once, right?
running together.
We've been back once because you all, it's part of our responsibility to make sure that we're ready for November, right? Like, it is at the state level, just like we talk about our role is to be the liaison between you and and the state agencies. This committee is supposed to be checking and balancing with the commissioner. Hey, are y'all ready at the state level? And I think that was really brilliant for you to have us sit with. If y'all didn't get to see it, we'll be posting. Somebody already said, send me the link. Yeah. But we'll be posting all of the things, not posting. We sat there and got the chance to ask all of the questions about just being prepared. And I know today I was looking at the clips, with my anxiousness of being ready to have a conversation with y'all, like, yo, this is good content. This is good information for y'all to know. But yes, I think we'll talk about what does it actually mean to be ready rather than a yes or no. I see some of y'all questions, so I want to get to those, and then maybe we'll get to talk a little bit more about that. So on Instagram, Life with Alex and Drac says, and Rack says, would this committee decide how Virginians vote electronically versus manually filling in the box? I saw something at early voting that made me, I remember this, that made me see that there should be some level of uniformity throughout.
Yeah, so this is definitely the committee that decides that. And so Virginia votes by paper ballot. And so there are some exceptions on the federal level as to how our UOCAVA voters can engage. But for most of us who are not international, we vote by a paper ballot. And so what is on the ballot, when the ballots are ready, all of that. From the machines and all of that, between the executive branch and the Department of Elections, and that's led by the Commissioner of Elections, and the executive branch, and then the legislative branch, we pass the laws that kind of run all of that. And then what we're finding is, if you're watching the news, some of it also gets decided in a judicial branch when there are inconsistencies or questions, and so investigations that need to be done, that can be decided by the courts. And so one of the hot topic questions that we asked in the hearing, because we were seeing what some of the other states were talking about. We were seeing what some folks were talking about right before January 6, 2021, in the 2020 election, this idea of certification. And so there is a county, at least one county, that is suing and saying that they're not going to certify elections unless blah, blah, blah. But if the courts say, yes, you will, then, that's kind of how all three branches can come together. There are instances, I think, that are very creative. I'm trying to be nice here. Very creative challenges that are coming out because people are trying to cause division. They're trying to cause confusion. So some of the antics that people are trying to do are trying to test the limit of the law. Or if say for instance, not every single time we pass a law does it speak to new technology. So trying to push to see, can we get away with this? Can we get away with that? Well, if the law is silent on it, that's where the courts step in. So it really is a local, state, and federal, and it's also a legislative, executive branch, and judicial branch enterprise to host the elections processes. But yeah, to be seen, to remain to be seen what the court cases will be about. The other court case is, or court cases are about this idea of list maintenance. So if you click on the link and watch some of the hearing, also it's a little long, but I will tell you, even as someone that I'm in this, right? Like we're in this, we learn things too. And so I think it's worth the watch. But when we were talking about list maintenance, so there are procedures that we have legislated and procedures that the executive branch has come up with to make sure that the list of voters who are eligible to vote is clean, right? And so there's an argument right now that some of the procedures that are being done to pull off those that are ineligible are happening within the quiet period that is established at the federal law, which is like the 90 days before the election. So if you'll remember last year, there were some errors. There were people that were pulled off the voting rolls that actually were eligible to vote. And so the argument is that instead of doing these processes where there could be these errors, then let's hold off on those for this specific period. So that whether or not those will continue will be decided by the courts. I don't think there's a date set yet. But when we're looking at legislation in our committee, we're thinking about these things, right? There's no system that's 100% perfect. I personally think that it really was a glitch in the system and how the data was coming from the state police. Like I do believe that part, that it wasn't intentional last year, but the way that the data came from the state police and the way that the data was received and used for the Department of Elections, it caused an error. It said that here are people with new felonies that did not have new felonies and they were pulled off the rolls. So there are some significant concerns that are out there, but the way that I think that you protect yourself as a voter while we're working out these things in the court or in our hearings is making sure that you check your status. If you know that you have registered to vote and you have participated in voting, you can go and we'll drop a link. You can go in and I think you put in your name, your date of birth, might be like your last 4 of your social, your full social, and then where the location where you have registered. That gets you into what's called the citizen portal. And then when you look and you see your name, you want to see active right there. If it says inactive, then before 11:59 p.m. tonight, we need you to update whatever is wrong or needs to be updated. If you've moved, if you've changed your name, marriage or divorce, right? Like any reasons, any changes that would impact your voter registration, you want to make sure that by 11:59 you go on and get that that changed up so you can get a regular ballot when you go vote. There is also this idea of making sure that we vote early. And so if anything were to go wrong on November 5th, that is actually your last opportunity to vote. You can vote now in person or by absentee all the way up to right before the elections. And so we just want to make sure that everybody has the information they need so that they can register and get their vote in. And then we can talk about same day voter registration in a bit. But I just want to say, like, even as you're hearing these conversations, you're not powerless in this. You can make sure that you're registered to vote. And then there are also lawyers that we have ready for the 866 Our Vote is the voter hotline. So should you incur any issues or problems, that's a nonpartisan hotline that can help you navigate those issues.
Yeah, that was a mouthful. You gave it to him.
I'm trying to look. It's a lot of bases to cover, and we can start talking about legislation for the 2025 session. But before we get there, we just want to make sure y'all are ready to participate as early as tomorrow and as late as November 5th. But today is that voter registration deadline. for using the traditional ballot.
Right. So 11:59 online, y'all got. And if you want hearing us, then we already know you got access to internet. Make it happen, cabinet. On top of that, just to verify your ish. Just go in there. And Kristen, you said you never heard of the Citizen Portal. That is great. Now that you know, right? Elections.virginia.gov. You can go in there and check it out. Like I know I did some misspelling on here, but she says so much great info. Thank you. That is awesome. So that's what we're here for here today. It's like, right? Yeah. We got to be more participatory. So Erica Sim says, my daughter will be 18 in February, and of course she can register to vote. What is the first thing that I can educate her on as far as the governor, city leaders, etc.? Sister, like, what do you know? Right? Where do you get your information? The first thing, I think part of it is actually building a voter that is willing to go get information, right? Like willing to take that step. And also, what are you, Erica? Now I know you be in these streets, okay? So where are you going? What are you doing? Who are you talking to? Can they watch the work? What do you value? And that's what I would be asking my child. What is important to you? Because the thing that happens when we start voting is like, it can be overwhelming, right? There's so much to care about right now. There's so much, but what does she care about the most? And then start looking at the governor's race, looking at the city council race. Next year, it's going to be a lot on her ballot, right? Mm-hmm. So just getting her to think about values or how you choose to vote. I mean, I don't know about you, see it. That's where I start. It's like, what matters the absolute most to me and who aligns with my values, and then that's my people. Because you're not gonna always like everybody. I voted for candidates that, as a person, I'm like, I don't know, but I know you're gonna be right on this particular issue. So.
I love this question, because one of the things that I do in my day job is we help people understand that when you're having an intergenerational conversation, you need to be focused on listening, especially when I think there are inclinations within the voting space to jump to educating, to jump to a sense of duty or obligation. And I just think that we should pause. Right. Especially for those that aren't even 18 yet. What I'm hearing in feedback is that, my words, shame doesn't motivate anyone to do anything. Also, at 18, I may have registered to vote because my mama told me to, but I didn't become really engaged until I understood what my vote meant for me. So I'm not just checking a box so that I can get somebody off my back. I'm checking a box because I tapped into my own power. So just like Delegate Glass was saying, like asking someone what's important to them, and then having your own civics knowledge of tapping into, okay, so if somebody says, what's most important to me is getting a good job and making a good living so I can take care of my future family, right? A lot of the sophomores and seniors are talking about that, being able to go to college or trade school or whatever to be able to get that job. So I said, well, did you know that we've been trying to pass the minimum wage increase here in Virginia, and the governor vetoed it. So the governor plays a significant role in when we're talking about livable wages here in the Commonwealth, right? So the House of Delegates, they will be on the ballot next year. Let me tell you what a delegate does. Do you think there should be more money for gun violence prevention in our communities that are experiencing gun violence, right? So the way that we shape our budget, the way that we shape our legislation, the House of Delegates, we help get that legislation passed, but we need a governor that's going to be right there, like signing the bills, A, right? B, thinking about the governor as the executive branch. Did y'all know that we passed, I guess they're called red flag laws, right? So we passed the laws that can help people who may be experiencing trauma or who may be going through a moment where they just do not need access to a gun temporarily. There is at least $1.5 million from the federal level that the Biden-Harris administration has made available to Virginia. But because the executive branch runs some of this, the head of the Department of Criminal Justice Services, at the behest of Governor Youngkin, did not pull down those federal federal funds. That is a policy choice, right? And so when you get into these conversations about what the policy choices are, poverty is a policy choice. Gun violence is a policy choice. A housing crisis is a policy choice. There are also policy choices that can fix those things. And we've got to talk about, who are the candidates that are trying to be the fixers. That was just an example of what I've been hearing from some of the sophomores and juniors and seniors that I've been working with in high schools. But whatever that answer is, we've got to be prepared to teach them how civics impacts their future.
No lie. Kid you not, I'm going to post it. I haven't gotten there yet, but I sat last night and talked with my new 18-year-old.
How did it go?
Now we had to do it while we was playing college football. Okay. I had to play him. I had to go to his spot and play some Xbox to have this conversation. But I think it was very eye-opening. The fact that he said, I used to look forward to voting. And I said, he's like, I used to, Mom. Like he's worked the polls. He's been at Civic League. He's done all these things. So it was a shock to me to hear. He was like, yo, I'm not with that. Like, I'm not voting. I'm not registering. I'm not doing none of that. He said, Mom, I don't think you remember the last time that we were at the polls, the way people were acting.
Yeah.
It was a bad experience. It was. I literally had to go for polls to have a lot of high schoolers working with us. And people were ugly. He was like, you see how people act? And then all you hear is about how people at each other. Now it's like, you know what? I don't want none of that. And there is not anything important enough to me. Like right now, I'm comfortable. I said, also, that's very privileged. I appreciate your privilege. Like you said, your privilege of being comfortable. I was like, but honestly, I feel a sense of responsibility, and I felt a little shame as a legislator having a child that's like, I'm not one, like that don't feel good, but this is where we're at, which is why I think what you started with is so important. It's like, we kind of have to listen a little bit so that we can get to the why. And we agree that there is also an obligatory nature of what we do. There's some level of obligation, but I think that I also have an obligation to hear him out before I say, hey, this is just kind of what we do.
Exactly. I mean, and to put a finer point on it, like the youth who are upset about genocide is bad, right? Like, let's be very clear, right? And so, excuse me, there are these things that I think we're talking past each other, but when you listen and you really hear out, okay, all right, I hear you, then let's see. I know what I know to be true about your son is that he cares about the well-being of other people. And so, I was talking with a young person the other day, and they were the same way, where it was just like, y'all just screaming at each other, and said, okay, you may hear screaming, but let me tell you what is coming out when I'm screaming. I am so scared for your future, and I know what is at stake for your future, because like some of us ain't gonna live to see these moments that we're fighting for, right? Some of us may not, but I got to do my part in between now and then to make sure it's happening. So let me tell you, it's not just a scream, it's a battle cry, right? And this is because I care about you. And like, I guess demystifying some of the political terms that they're hearing in the yelling to really understand what it is that we're saying, and reminding me that people are watching, right? And so if your son may not saying that this is the truth, but if your son or any young person is like, well, I don't know my why yet, I'm still trying to figure out things. Okay, cool. Ask somebody else what their why is. Because my why as a woman who needs access to contraception in order to have managed symptoms of polycystic ovarian syndrome, as a queer woman who has, some disabilities that I'm dealing with, like the way that we engage in the world, I need y'all to find a why for the people that are living at the margins. And so that's some of the things that I say to the young folks when we're having these conversations, but most of it is listening. And just want to point out that Jacqueline Williams, absolutely awareness for mental health. So Jackie and I were working on a bill together that we just got past this past session, where it is infusing mental health concepts into K through 12 education at age appropriate ways for each level. So when I don't know, where you're from, Ms. Williams, but conflict resolution is a non-entity right now, right? We gotta get back into those classrooms, get back into if your child is in a faith community, making sure the faith community is teaching conflict resolution and great self-esteem, because whatever we're not teaching in the classrooms or in our homes or in our faith communities, the internet is, right? And so being a stronger, louder voice than what the internet can offer in those negative ways. So absolutely raising mental health awareness.
That's right. And then, Erica said, thank you. Yep. Let's go. Communication is, we build a relationship with soon to be adults. We appreciate you. We got a lot of questions over on Instagram. So I'm going to roll over here. Zan, I know that you left off with saying she wants to make sure that if somebody comes in and votes for president, but not school board, they have the way to prevent voters from submitting empty ballots. She had an instance where a lady just didn't know what she was doing. She called me while it was happening. She don't know what she's doing, and she just submitted an empty ballot. I know, but that is the education of the workers in the space, and also making sure that we feel empowered to ask questions. So it's going to be really important that you all help your circle understand that if you are at the poll and you are confused, it is okay to ask questions. That's what that button is for. That's what those folks are for. And if you go to election.virginia.gov, then you can get connected with the right space. You can go to our Norfolk Elections registrar website to figure out how you can sign up, because we still need folks to work. So Miss Jackie, if you're interested in that, I know you live in Suffolk. I don't know where you registered up. But making sure that you get it in there. Great question, Erica. They said, wow, local, so much power at the state level. Yes, so much power at the state level that people don't even realize it. It was a bunch of comments. So thank y'all for that. Keep the questions, comment this. Remember, this is your time. We're just chopping it up about where we are elections wise.
Yeah.
Marky, hey, she said, honestly, I'm voting based on who I don't want in office. So it's tough for me to have an open conversation where I'm actually listening, and I have to work on that. That is also a choice, right? No one can tell you have to work on that. We just happy that we are able to be a part of it. I don't mean to speak for you, Delia Price. It's to be able to be a part of the institution in a way that ensures that you can make that choice however you want to make it. Is profoundly wild to me. I just am I cannot believe that this is where we work part-time.
Part-time / all-time. But no, and I think Marky, too, that self-awareness is key. So if you feel your blood boiling, or if you feel like you're getting a little agitated, I honestly think too, use your village. Because I was talking to some folks who they were like, man, my mom said that, but the way you said it it hit better. And it's just because when the parent says it, it might feel like a demand or a command. And then so use your village. If you got an auntie or a cousin or somebody that can get to them as well, I think that's really, really important. And also just that self-awareness to know you got to be able to do a choose your own adventure of these. So you have to have that understanding and knowledge about these different positions, and what does a congressman do? What does a senator do? What does the president do? Beyond just what you see on TV, but what the actual Constitution says they do. I was having a conversation with someone before, and they were like, well, I don't like either of the two candidates. And I was like, okay, bet. Then let's talk about their teams. Because honestly, you're not voting just for president and vice president. You're voting for two people or the president is going to be appointing 15 secretaries, 46 to 126 federal judges. And that philosophy of what does justice look like? Who gets justice? Who has access to the justice? That is what you're choosing as well. about. And so we were able to bring it out of this cult of personalities and literally dig into what is the vision of the future that you have. And let's talk about that, and less about the candidate and more about the future and more about them, because voting is very personal and it needs to feel personal in order for people to understand their power with it.
For sure. And one thing that I didn't learn, like, um, if we could be so candid, is I kind of got put on. Y'all know I got elected the day before session started in 2022, and when I came in, maybe for a couple of days, I had no idea where I was going to be assigned. And to kind of spite, at that time it was a Republican-led House, and to kind of spite our guru here, Madam Chair Delegate Price, Marcia Price, they pulled her off of privileges in elections and put me on it. I'm saying that correctly, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely there's some strategy and play in that, right? This is why I said it, when we're voting, it's a team sport, especially across the Commonwealth when we talk about the makeup of our legislative branch, which is why I tell y'all, even when I'm not on the ballot, we got to be helping other people across the Commonwealth, because it is a team sport. We got to have the right amount of asses in seats. And so I didn't realize getting onto that committee, all of the breadth of the work, and you breezed over it. But when you're talking about a team, no, not in a bad way. It was just like, yo, this is just what we do. So for y'all to understand, the thing that it's not just elections information. And I see a couple questions on election processes. I'm going to get to that, Kristen and Zan. But it's not just an electoral process. We hear about how we deal with campaign money. Yep. We hear about all of the government. When the governor wants to appoint people to those statewide commissions, whether it's eggs, it's veterans, it's aviation, it's potatoes, all of these different commissions that we have, that stuff come through us. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at our neighbors across the Commonwealth and also deciding, like, all right,
right,
should they be on this commission? Should they be a part of this board, FCC? Like, well, not that's just, but like, what really looking at the things that liaison with the executive and legislative branch to help make decisions for all of us. We are seeing those names and those people. So this is my moment. I'm just going to take a moment to encourage you to go look at those lists of boards, commissions, and authorities for the state level. And if transportation or time is your thing, look at the local level too, and consider being participatory in that way. So it's not just about election day, but we see that stuff and we looking at it and voting on it. And I'm like, dang.
But no, I mean, the boards and commissions at the local level, if your city council is doing their job, they're taking those recommendations to heart about what it is the people want. And I can 100% say, because we serve on them, the boards and commissions at the state level are also very big. Like, we have the Commission to End Hunger, we have the Joint Commission on Healthcare. Like, there are all of these things where we're taking feedback from the people that we represent all across the Commonwealth and utilizing their input to develop legislation. So much like what you're doing with your roundtables, but like on the entire GA level, and a lot of the okay, I'm gonna behave, but so we've learned about Project 2025, and my words, whether you agree or disagree, I'm not you, Jackie, but for the folks where I come from and who I am and what I bring to the table, Project 2025 is a threat to the survival of the people that I'm fighting for, right? But there are people that had hands in writing, developing, and coming up with some of the pieces within the Department of Education that would dismantle the way that we know what parts of public education that we have now. Should we do more to improve education? Absolutely. But the answer is not to defund public school and make it private, or to do these things. Well, there are people that wrote those plans that are being appointed to college boards in Virginia, right? And so it's definitely something that you want, because who you have on your college board decides major decisions for how things will go at our public institutions. And so that's just one example. But then you think about water, soil, like all of the things, food, like all of the things that impact our daily life and work. those people are appointed largely by the governor. There are some appointments that are made by the speaker and the chair of Senate Rules, but in general, the ones that Delegate Glass are talking about are made by the governor.
Yeah, and they come through the Privileges and Elections Committee. Furthermore, I think it also, this is a way to interject yourself, humans, friends, neighbors, is that we don't know all them people. And sometimes you might look at that list and be like, Jack, I've seen somebody's name on that list. And if you don't know how to look at the list, please, by all means, reach out to the office. We'll show you how to stay abreast of legislation if this is your thing. But we rely on you as our neighbors sometimes to be looking at them names to tell us if something's suspect. I remember we went through with the guy at UVA that was like threatening a student that was trying to get on a board. And I only knew that because a constituent was like, hey, did you see this name? And we're able to do better work in the room when y'all understand what we're responsible for. Right. And then you understand that you can access in a meaningful way. Lisa just said they can use their personal device to research. That was a callback to what I think what Erica was saying about her daughter. Absolutely, you can use your personal device. I do want to acknowledge our friend in Nigeria, social worker Boniface. Thank you so much for being on here. You are doing good work. And I know you are part of the reason why I think I remember that we have it very good here and that we should continue to work because there are people around the world watching us and wishing that they had the things we had democratically. Marquis said she also pulled up a sample ballot, saw the races didn't even know was on the ballot. For example, school board. I had some research to do. That's right.
No, that's major. So can we go and list it out right now? So every single ballot in Virginia has president, vice president, United States Senate, your congressional representative, and a proposed constitutional amendment. So everybody's ballot has that. And then based on where you are, if you're in a city, county, or town, you may have city council. It might be a mayor's race, might not be a mayor's race, but at least the city council members and school board members. And then there's some special elections that are happening around the Commonwealth as well. So that link that Delegate Glass put in on how to make sure that you go to the citizens portal and look that up, you also can utilize that to see what's on your ballot. I'm going to drop another link where you can kind of get some information as well. And this is for my day job, but there are, just how you can look up more information about what's on your ballot. That's something that you can be doing tonight, so that if you go vote tomorrow, you're ready. You're ready.
We put it in our private chat too, so I can copy and paste and make sure it gets to all the social. I appreciate you. We got a couple questions on the Instagram side. I'm sorry, I was late getting to you. Not late. We get to you as we can. We got about 15 or so more minutes before we wrap up here, a little less than that. Zan says, when is the deadline to bring new legislation forward?
So really interesting, right? So as you all know, we are part-time legislators. Not all of us are lawyers. So we actually work with an amazing team of lawyers called the Department of Legislative Services. So this year we have to get any requests for drafts in by November 25th. So if you have an idea that you want to talk through with your delegate, now is the time. We've been talking with some folks in our office since July, since we actually, finished with the budget a little earlier, and doing some research so we know we don't want to hit unintended consequences. We want to make sure it's constitutional, like all of these things. But we have to get all of our requests in for drafting by November 25th.
Yeah, and the great thing, I think, just pulling back to elections is as it pertains to the work that happens on the electoral side is that this past session, I'd like to think that the leadership that we had in the House and I'm trying to give you your kudos without I know how that feels. That is uncomfortable. Let's just say that under your leadership, we were able to give some space to get all of the things, the changes that we've been trying to make over the past couple of years, give the state the opportunity to get us in a place where we can hold them accountable for the legislative things that have been happening. I'm transitioning there because Kristen said, how did COVID change the voting process? What's really important is the election that happened right before COVID did, I think, a whole lot to change the voting process. But I'll give you the floor on that because I wasn't in the legislature at that time.
No, I think it's a great question because the assumption is, I think a lot of times that the changes that were brought forward in 2020 were in response. But I want to remind everybody that our 2020 session that happened in January and February of 2020, we were in person and no mask because we did not even know the word COVID yet. So a lot of the 45 days of early voting with no excuse absentee, Sunday voting, election day as a holiday, all of that happened before we even knew COVID. So when COVID hit, it was like, what are the things about our elections process that makes it harder to do in person? So that is when we started realizing that the witness signature, that's really tough when you're supposed to be, staying away from people. So we were eventually able to pass a bill that allows for you to do the last four of your social instead of a witness signature. Being able to mail it from home without going to get the stamp. So we were able to pay for the postage and have prepaid postage on the return envelope for COVID. Drop boxes. Drop boxes were also something that other states have been using, but it made a whole lot of sense when you needed to be socially distancing. So those were the kind of impacts. A lot of this other stuff we had actually been working on prior to COVID. And then I think the further enhancement of curbside voting was one that came out of the ability for people to stay, not just those with specific disabilities, but folks that could really benefit from voting curbside. And then, of course, again, really utilizing our absentee ballot system such that if you're sick or just don't want to go or can't go, that you are still able to make sure that your voice is heard. But a lot of that, again, was in process before COVID. And I'm really glad that it was in place by the time COVID came around.
Yeah. So just to underscore, it was going to happen anyway.
But I mean, what makes sense in a disaster, usually makes sense for, for every day. So I don't know. They were not COVID responses as we hear in your subcommittee all the time.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. So Christian said, hey, gotta go to Civic League. We appreciate you going to Civic League now because we know we dropped that median age in the room. It's been great. She said, thank you both for engaging with us common citizens. Stop it. Proud of you both. Proud of you both for using your wits for society. And we're glad to have you here. Okay, still our delegate. Y'all better quit playing. Y'all, listen. Yes, still your delegate, but I will not be on your ballot. Okay. so
that is accurate. That is accurate.
Your delegate will not be on your ballot. Encourage you to make sure that you are staying abreast because we did have a seismic shift of where people are lined up. So some of you, I'm just going to say this out loud, that thing called the census, you better do it because that's how we every 10 years figure out where we're going to shift ourselves. And that also went through, did that go through privileges and elections as well?
Yeah.
That was
the redistricting bills that we had, so that was 2020. So I had a bill while we were dealing with lots of things, but I had a bill that basically made political, racial, and prison gerrymandering illegal. That went through, it passed, and Governor Northam signed it. So how we were drawing the lines in 2021, and as we were deciding who was going to be drawing the lines, we at least knew that gerrymandering would not be a thing. And so really proud about that because that is even dependent upon like who you vote for, where you vote. Are you being what they call cracked impact for what they've been doing to African-American communities throughout history, where they either put a whole bunch of Black people in one district to give us a giveaway district, or are they spreading us out so thin that none of our votes really can impact the power? Well, neither, because neither are fair. So making sure that we're not having gerrymandering here impacts your ability for your vote to truly count.
Yeah, that kind of reform is crucial, but I think where my brain was going is like, I remember you saying, or someone saying, that Virginia is the only state of the Commonwealth, it's a state that has all of those things.
We are the only one in the South. So there are I'll say less than 5 that have all 3, but I know for sure we're the only one in the South and one of few on the national level.
On the national level, that if we really want to be clear about where we are, okay,
Yeah.
we are a place of voter encouragement. We do so much here in the Commonwealth to encourage you to vote, to make it easy for you to vote. You're going to give the stat on where we were at 2020
Yes.
and then where we are now. And then I'm going to tell them about how y'all be taking care of business and registering. So what's the stat on Virginia as far as electoral process, ease of voting? What was the status in 2020?
So I think it was 2019, because I remember it was before COVID, but it was either 2018 or 2019. It came out that we were ranked 48th in ease of voting and cost of voting. So that is the barriers that are in place between a person and them exercising their right to vote. And so whether they had all kinds of metrics, but some of the things that we knew, short early voting periods, you had to have an excuse, a verifiable excuse in order to early vote, strictly photo ID and not just voter ID. All of those sorts of things were happening, and we were 48th. And I don't know if you know, but there's a whole lot of states I don't never want to be ranked lower than because they just not great, right? Right. But we are Virginia. We are the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we knew that was not okay. But it was also the ways in which, like our districts were gerrymandered, our African American vote was just, I mean, all the way back to the history of we were under the Voting Rights Act. There were parts of Virginia that had a history of voter disenfranchisement and suppression, and so we were under preclearance when that part of the Voting Rights Act was still intact. So fast forward 2020, we got a lot of great legislation passed. 2021, we got even more great legislation passed. All of these things. That we're going into it. The last one that I remember in 2022 came out, and that's after the Voting Rights Act of Virginia, after all of these things, pre-registration of 16 and 17-year-olds, all of that, automatic voter registration, same day voter registration, and we got to 11th. And so it's really cool to be able to go to like the National Conference of State Legislators conference and know that your state is shaded in the like, oh, they're doing good, as opposed to what it felt like before. That we definitely have things that we're working on. As you can see, Virginia is in the news, like we mentioned, for some things. But if everybody is doing their part and everybody's doing everything by the book, we were ranked 11th in that. And so that was really, really cool.
Lisa said the latest cost index was Virginia ranks 14. Thank you for that. We'll look, make sure we know where we stand.
Yeah, I thought it was 11, but again, I think the one that I was looking at was 2022. If there's been one since that, please send us the link, because I want to be precise in my language.
No, that's why we do this with your it's 11. Oh, it's 11. Question mark. We're gonna figure
there was a big shift. We're gonna get whether it was 11 or 14 straight, but it was a big old shift from 48, and that is because of wonderful people speaking up and helping us get those bills passed.
And it is a testament. I mean, I really wanted you to say that, Stab, because I think what I hope that the general public, y'all understand, is that all it takes is one good round of folks to do the right things, to do a seismic shift. And you all may not have felt it the way the people that are doing the work felt it, but you feel it today when you can go vote and register at the same day. Just as that seismic shift took us from 49 to 11 or 14, wherever we at, that just as easily could change in the next election cycle. Yeah. We are so proud of y'all as Virginians voting every goddamn year. Like every year, you could be fatigued, but the commissioner of elections told us at the briefing that 93% of people who are eligible to vote in Virginia are registered to vote. That is a shout out to y'all. Like,
Yeah, I gotta go back and watch that. Running the meeting. I think I missed that part. That's awesome.
93%. It was one of the guys on the other side came back and was like, let me do that math. You mean to tell me 6 some odd million folks are eligible to vote and 6 some odd million are actually registered? That puts us at 93. Yeah, that's because that's how we do. And I think that we have to affirm that culture, y'all, because that's just what Virginians do. We vote and
Yeah.
we encourage voting, we create systems that encourage votes, and we do the daggone thing, right? Like that's
At least since 2020.
at least, at least.
Can't speak what everybody else was doing, but
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are coming to the end of this, right? Thank y'all for all the questions, but I'd like to ask you a question, um, uh, Madam Chair, Delegate Price. Is it's not a trick question. It's
I
just going
know.
to be.
I'm just messing.
You're giving that play with me. What are you being a person who has been in this work? You've been in the legislature since what, 2015? 2016, excuse me. Been in legislature since 2016. This has been an area that you and our state are, people look to you, right? Let's just be real. It's like when it comes to privileged elections, our heads are going to turn to you and say, okay, what is Delegate Price saying? And you have the opportunity to do things that make yourself proud. And if I could to y'all, like I love making myself proud of me. Like that feels good to make myself proud of me. So when you look at the breadth of the work in the privileges and election space, what would you say for you are most proud of for yourself?
I would definitely say the Voting Rights Act of Virginia. It saddens me. Let me preface that with so I think many of you know that my uncle is Congressman Scott, and he was serving in the House, representing a multi-member district, but the area where I was born and raised. And so when I was born and raised, he was actually in the House of Delegates. And so just looking back to some of the things that he was fighting about and for when I was born, several years ago. Unfortunately, some of the same fights are being fought now, and that's to make sure that everybody has access to the ballot and to make sure that we never go backwards to a time where Virginia, as we know, had the poll taxes, had literacy tests and all kinds of craziness. Shout out to Norfolk because that was the birthplace of was it Evelyn Ligon that got rid of some of that, and then there was some Newport News folks that were part of the NAACP court cases that brought more transparency and fairness and equity and equality to the voting space. So Hampton Roads, we've been at this for a long, long time, right? But in the 2013 Supreme Court case in Shelby v. Holder, when the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which helped us get to the table, was basically gutted, it left a lot of us scrambling to just see, okay, well, what can we do? What can we do? And so it was everyday work on behalf of organizers and advocates that kept the work going every day. And just like, stay ready so you don't got to get ready. Stay ready and worked and worked and worked, because we used to be Georgia. We used to be Texas, right? And we got that cultural shift to a point where now we have a pro-democracy majority. In 2020, we were able to get the Voting Rights Act of Virginia passed, and it was the first state level Voting Rights Act of the South. And at that time, it was the most progressive. It was looking out for the folks in Virginia Beach with some of the local shenanigans that were going on there. It brought language access to the thing. But the main thing was that people did not know prior to 2020. In 2021 in the Commonwealth of Virginia, if you were an affected or disaffected voter, you couldn't sue the people that were suppressing your vote. And so now either the attorney general or the impacted voter can sue should their right be taken or suppressed or sit in the way. So what that means was that even when our friends across the aisle got the majority for a brief time, they could not pass bills that were antithetical to the Voting Rights Act of Virginia, because that's what was in place. And that's what's still in place and protecting us. So we didn't go back to be Georgia or Texas or Virginia, or Texas or Florida or yada, yada, yada. But my celebration is short-lived, because, as you know, things have to be maintained. And right now we have that 2-vote majority of the pro-democracy majority in the House, a 2-vote pro-democracy majority in the Senate. But for those 4 people, we could be Georgia, Florida, or whatever. And so I really am putting a lot of my time into working on that national level to make sure that we have a pro-democracy trifecta in the House, the Senate, and the White House, because that John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act must be signed so that those in Georgia and Florida and Texas can be as protected as we are in Virginia.
There you have it. So we can stay Virginia, right? We done transitioned. I know we keep saying, oh, first in the South. I hope that we're the first in the South to do more pro-democracy things. I love that you said pro-democracy majority, because that was not in my language. Y'all better use that too. I just want a pro-democracy majority as we roll through this. We are headed into 2025, y'all, and we got to wrap up here. We're coming down to our last 15 seconds or so, but we are getting ready to head into 2025.
Right.
Expect, if you were listening today and you were like, I really like this stuff, it's interesting, then you need to go ahead and start getting yourself in a space to follow the Privileges and Elections Committee so that you can see what's happening. Like, we can go ahead and make you a little lobbyist in the box. It's not a bad word. If you've been to summer school, then you know it's not a bad word. These are opportunities to find what matters to you, right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, and Madam Chair will lead us how we're going to lead us with across the Commonwealth about what's going to happen next with privileges and elections. But I imagine we're holding tight. We're holding tight.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that out loud so people understand that we're trying to hold on to what we have and keep it a part of the work that we do. We're trying to give more people access, right? Like, constitutional amendment, all types of, we're trying to make sure that we continue to be a Commonwealth of participation, period.
Yeah, we're gonna have a meeting in November. If we carry over legislation during a regular session, there's some action that needs to be taken on it by a deadline in November in order for us to then take more action on it that next year. So we do have a meeting this year, but looking forward to next year. One thing that we also need to know is that we're getting a system update, which is really exciting because, as you know, with some of the other DMV systems and some of the other things that have been updated, like, our technology has got to match where it is we're trying to go. And so we don't want to do anything that negatively impacts the new technology or assumes anything about the new technology before we get it. So, at this point, I think that there are some democracy related things that we are definitely going to try and do, and maybe some tweaks within the elections administration space where Madam Chair is chair of that subcommittee. But I think our focus can be on some of the things that are happening outside of the actual voter and ballot situation that really do, impact democracy as well. Because once you cast your ballot, if there are forces that whether it's dark money or, all of these other forces, that Citizens United sort of stuff that are impacting the weight of your vote, that's not good either. So we just want to see what we can do to move the needle there. And then there'll be some, some people that the governor would like for us to consider confirming that we will have that opportunity to do so or not next year.
Sound like good work, though.
What they say, hard work is good work.
Sound like good work. Good work. So, Delia Price, where can people find you social wise if they're like, yeah, I want to keep up with good work, I really love what you do? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm going to grab my link tree so that you can get all of my links. But basically, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of the things, and we answer all of our messages and everything other than Facebook messages, because I think that's where humanity goes to die. But here is my link tree, and then I'll share it with you as well to put on the others. And those go straight to me. We post on X. We don't engage as much on X, but we are on Threads. We will be going live in a few days on some updates that we have going on. But I mean, Delegate Glass and I are working together. So if there's something, that's happening on y'all side of the water, I bet you it's impacting our side too. So if you want to reach out to me, we are, I'm especially working in the housing, healthcare, gun violence prevention space, in addition to voting rights. So I look forward to the work that we're going to get done. And I know Delegate Glass has told you this, but we really do read emails and public comment. We read it. We take it into effect. I can tell you, my chief of staff, that's a lot of the work that we do during the year, is sifting through comments. So when you get that Hide Speak link to put your comments on the bill, we actually read it. So that's not a waste of time. That's a great way to engage, even if you can't make it to Richmond.
If you can't make it to Richmond, but I'm gonna tell you, I want you to try. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you can, come on up.
Yep. Or virtually, there's a lot of good ways to engage, and you don't have to love everything to do one thing. Okay. So remember, ain't none of us changing the world, but we're changing the corner of our world with that little bit of things that we do. Let's just keep them corner changing. And until next time, I'm Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer and laced up legislator for the House Delegates 93rd District. So honored to serve. So grateful for y'all to spend y'all evening with us. Now go eat or something. Okay. I catch y'all on Thursday morning for the morning dew for certified doers. Bring your questions there. You are very welcome. We are honored to serve. Be well, y'all.